Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to Jim's 5 a.m. Club. It's Wednesday morning and we're down here harbourside, and as you can see it's very, very dark at this time of the morning. It's coming on 5:30 and sunrise is at about 6:15. So we're 3/4 of an hour before sunrise, and it looks like it's a cloudy morning as usual. We haven't had very many clear mornings this summer, nor very many sunny days, but that's the character of this summer this year here in Sydney, and we'll just take it and just get on with it without having to worry too much about it. Anyway, let's go on a bit of a walk and talk. Today I want to take you through a book summary entitled The Power of Bad. The Power of Bad, and it's authored by a dual authorship of John Tierney and Roy Baumeister. So what we'll do is we'll just go for a walk, and I'll do my best in the dark just to go through my notes as best I can. But this book is all about learning how to manage your mindset and to understand that one bad or one negative thought can crowd out a number of positive thoughts, and one bad relationship can crowd out a number of good relationships. So you need to be very, very careful and to nip those negativities, those negative people, those negative thoughts out of your mind, because if you don't, you're going to be overwhelmed by the negativity and your days are going to be dark, just like this morning is dark, and you're going to be spending your life looking for a sunrise but not finding it. So the author talks about something which is quite important, and they kick off the book by saying that if one thing goes bad, don't interpret it as a harbinger of inevitable doom. Whether you're dealing with a personal setback or contemplating a state of the world. So I guess the author here is suggesting that if something bad happens or if something negative happens, don't use that as a thing or an opportunity to paint everything else black and with the same brush. Take it for what it is, but don't overthink it and don't overread it, I guess is the key message coming from this book. And the authors then talk about the fact that we live in a world where negative things seem to get all the attention. So it's another call to action here to be a little bit more observing and observant, and to understand that there's a lot of good things happening around us, but all we seem to do is just to focus on and notice the negative things that are happening. So that in itself, for a lot of people, is a wake-up call and an opportunity to understand that not everything is bad, but everything that you focus on tends to be bad. So what we need to do is to change our focus, lift our gaze, and to start looking for things as they really are, as opposed to as we spend our time noticing. So let's move on and talk about a few more things. The author then highlights the fact that one negative thought can kill all your positive thoughts and take over your brain if you're not careful. And it's important to understand that. It's important to understand that one negative thought can basically overwhelm your brain and get you into a state of fight or flight, and once you're in that state, then all of a sudden your rational thinking disappears, evaporates, stops, and it takes you a while to snap out of it. So an important thing to contemplate is to try and minimize your reaction and your thought processes so that you don't get stuck in that primitive mindset of fight and flight, and you allow yourself to be able to think rationally and think clearly. So let's move on here. So the next point is also very, very enlightening. The author kicks off three important points, leading points in this book. And the first point is that you need to have 5 positive experiences to combat the overwhelming effects of just one negative experience. And you see it with children. When they have a bad experience, all of a sudden they're not willing to try anything else. They go into their shell and they basically suffer and clam up. So as a parent, as a guardian, as somebody who works with a team, you basically need to work with them so that they generate a lot more positive experiences. So in order to make sure that their inventory of experiences are not just overwhelmed by that 1 or 2 bad experiences. So how do we do that? How do we do it so that we at least pay attention, or at least have some sort of indicator of a ledger of experiences? And the way we do it, according to the authors here, is that you need to track your good, bad, and neutral days. You need to track your experiences, which means journaling your experiences, so that you can become objective about assessing whether or not your day's been good, bad, or just non-eventful. And it also happens in relationships. The relationships that we have with ourselves, the relationships that we have with our partners, the relationships we have with our children and other people. The author here says it's good to be in a position where you can objectively do some analysis and an assessment, and you do that by tracking those experiences, and then keeping a tally basically of how these experiences are with the various people that you touch throughout the day, in your daily work life and in your life in general. So we're asked to basically either keep a mental tally or a physical tally of your experiences and how it's doing. So we need to look, for every bad day or for every bad experience, how many good days there are, to assess how our life is going. And the author has a baseline, or has a sort of a rule of thumb in terms of relationships. A good relationship with a partner or with friends or with people that you work with is where you have 5 good days to every 1 bad day. And that's a rule of thumb, and at least a starting point to looking into how your days are going, how your relationships are going, and how it's all panning out. So try running a tally of how you're going with your friends and family, and if you see that that your negative outcomes are far less than that 5 to 1, then you may want to consider cutting that relationship or spending less time in that environment because it's just bringing you grief and not bringing you pleasure. The next thing that the author talks about is how you basically deal with criticism and how you deal with feedback and provide feedback to other people. And the key lesson coming out of this book is that you don't sandwich criticisms between two compliments because it just doesn't work. So you need to deliver and learn how to deliver feedback in a positive way and in a way that gets appreciated and accepted by the person who you're chatting with or who you're living with. So we don't have so much good happening in our lives, but the negative takes over our minds no matter how small it is. And you see this, I've noticed this with people, and sometimes I even notice it in myself. You know, if I just get one small piece of negative feedback, or if I get an inkling of being taken for granted or not being noticed or not being appreciated, it seems to take over our mind. Even though there's so many good things happening throughout our day, just that one small thing, just that one little thing tends to niggle at us throughout the day and just cause us a distraction that basically, reduces our great day, our great experience to a neutral experience, or in fact turns it into a bad experience. And the reason for this, and I've got cousins and I've got people, that I work with and I live with, and I've befriended over the years, and you notice that just one negativity, just one small negative thing tends to overwhelm them, and it takes over their mind, it takes over our mind, and no matter how small it is, people always seem to focus, not all people, but some people always seem to focus on the bad. So be mindful with what you say and how you say it. And I guess we've all been guilty of being party to this, to saying things that you maybe shouldn't have said, but knowing that whatever you've said is going to have lingering effects on the people that you've said it to. And I guess the bottom line here that the author is suggesting is that when you're giving feedback, make sure you're asking lots of questions and you generate dialogue, because dialogue is so important in terms of giving feedback and in engaging the people around us. And the last point of this book is another call to action in terms of basically using the research that you've been able to get, using the information that you've been able to journal, and to remove people who have a bad attitude from your life so you don't catch their infectious negativity. People just don't get it, and you often see it on Facebook, on social media, in our social circles, that there are just some people who are just negative all the time. Fair enough, there are some people who are negative sometimes. They could be shitty for some particular reason. But there are some people who take pride in being negative. The negative Nancys, the Debbie Downers, the people who continually sow seeds of fear, uncertainty and doubt. And they're the sort of people who are the bad apples in your social circle. They're the ones who infect everybody with their negativity, because even the smallest amount of negativity, if it keeps on flowing and if it keeps on coming, is undermining. It's gaslighting. It's causing and it's generating an environment which is negative and toxic. And as Jim Rohn coined many years ago, you end up becoming the average of the half dozen or so people you hang out with. So if you've got one person in that half dozen people who is constantly negative, then their negativity is going to overwhelm and take over the group. It is so powerful. Negativity is so powerful and so damaging that you need to understand that, and you need to separate it, and you need to nip it in the bud and piss it off out of our lives, for fear that it spoils not only your day, but it has a ripple effect which will continue to spoil everything it touches. So once again, let's be cognizant, let's be mindful of the fact that one negative person can ruin, absolutely ruin a whole environment. So we need to keep an eye out. We need to keep our radar attuned to negativity and to nip it in the bud as quickly and as often as possible. And there are three types of negative people that we need to be aware of. We've got the jerk, and the jerk is somebody who is just plain rude. They're rude all the time. You know, they'll start an email, or they'll start a comment with something like, you know, the term rubbish. They'll just be bossy. They'll be pushy. They'll be arrogant. You know, and they're called the jerk type. Now the ones, and you know who they are, the ones who are rude and think that they are the oracle of all information and all knowledge, and they're the ones who seem to think that their opinion counts and nobody else's opinion counts. The other person that we need to remove from our social circles and from our lives are the slackers, the ones who are just plain lazy, because their lethargy, their slovenly appearance, and their laziness will infect yourself and others as well. So make sure you just steer clear of people who are just lazy, ones who are lazy in their thought, lazy in their language, lazy in their dress sense, lazy in their eating habits, and basically just lazy all around. Because before you know it, without knowing it, you're going to be copying and pasting their habits and replacing your good habits with their bad habits. And the last one that you need to get rid of, piss off out of your life, is the downright pessimists. So anybody who is pessimistic, anybody who just looks at opportunity and finds problems, anybody who just spends their time raising issues, raising problems, and spreading their pessimism, just ain't going to be good for you. So I think that's about it. It's just starting to sprinkle. Another summer day that's starting overcast and with a sprinkle in the air. So let's finish off with a positive affirmation. I'm alive, I am well, and I feel absolutely great. To my friends and family, stay connected, stay relevant, stay reasonable, and let's take some lessons from this book and understand that we need to manage our thought processes, but we also need to manage the environment around us and make sure that we're not hanging out with people who are pessimistic, lazy, rude, and people who are going to infect not only us, but others around us with their bad style. So let's finish off, and I wish you all the very best. May you have an awesome day, and we'll catch up again at morning tea, where we'll go through another book summary where hopefully we can learn something new and get us through the morning, through the day, and allow us to live, learn and pass it on. Take care, Vilekya, and bye for now.